Hello, this is Mark Wildman of Wildman Athletica, and today we are going to talk about an intermediate to advanced elbow stretch. When people start doing athletic activities that are very hard on grip, rope climbing, obstacle coursing, kettlebelling, heavy club swinging, they can tend to get overuse injuries pretty quickly. There is a slow buildup with things like kettlebells and clubs, not so much for the muscles, but more so that the joints can adapt to the traction and torsion load that they're going to be under when you're swinging levers. Oftentimes people will get injuries in their elbow. Many people who are very in shape have been doing a lot of gym exercise for a very long time, and they might not extend their elbow all the way because of the type of training that they're doing. Bodybuilding training can oftentimes encourage people to do half or partial reps so that they can maintain greater time under tension so that they can get more gains. That is an excellent strategy for bodybuilding, but it doesn't work great for obstacle coursing, rope climbing, heavy club swinging, or kettlebells. And those things, it benefits you greatly to achieve full arm lock so that your tendons and your ligaments aren't under a ton of stress by being in partial flexion of the joint. This exercise that we're going to do is an intermediate elbow stretch. There are yoga poses very similar to this, but we are doing the intermediate version, not the advanced version, because most people who do kettlebells and clubs are not advanced yogis. We are going to start from a kneeling position on the mat. Our goal is to get our palm flat on the ground with our fingers pointed back. Then we are going to lay our body. Our elbow is going to have our hip directly on top of it. Let's start with the roll in entrance first, because that's probably the easiest. Get all the way down to the mat, roll to one side, take your palm, fingers point down. Your fingers are going to end up between your legs, palm flat on the ground, roll on top, other arm in front, adjust to get your hip over the top of your elbow, your hip bone, and then you're going to press your palm flat into the ground. Hold this stretch for 1 minute to 3 minutes, probably a minute to start because it's very intense. Try to lengthen your arm and reach your fingertips for your toes in this position. When you get out, roll your elbow underneath. Press up to take the weight of your hips off your elbow and then roll out of it to the side. What you are doing is you are getting this elbow directly underneath the center line of your body. Open your hand, try and put all points of your hand flat on the ground. Open your fingers wide and reach your arm long, 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 long. The weight of your body will be resting on your elbow and it is going to push it flat into the ground. This is an intermediate level elbow stretch for people who grip very hard a lot. This is one that you need to take your time with. Figure out how you can get into it easily and get out of it without ripping your elbow in half. Very important. The cool down doesn't do you any good if you get hurt getting in or out of it. Another way to get into this stretch, which is a little bit dicier and requires you to have greater levels of body control, is to start in our seiza or low kneeling position. Take your fingertip, point it back, palm flat on the ground, get 2 points of your palm all the way down. Now we are going to drive forward. This other hand is going to hold your weight up. If this hand cannot support your weight, do not do this. If you fall on your elbow in this position, it's bad. Don't do that. Get your hand down, slide your knees back, gently adjust your hip on top of your elbow. Take this hand, put it underneath your face, take your head, look towards the stretching elbow side, flatten your palm out, adjust your legs. When you want to make this more advanced, roll your toes underneath, drive your legs straight. That'll add load to your hips, pushing down into your elbow. To get out of this, drop your knees, roll your toes underneath, take this arm, reach it across, and roll your body off of the elbow. Keep the exits as safe as possible for the elbow. This is a very hardcore stretch for 96% of the population. There are more advanced versions of this where you would pick your feet up and do all kinds of crazy stuff to drive your elbow even further into ground. The more you pick your feet up, the more weight drives down through your hips, the more it pushes your elbow flat into the ground. The main goal is to reach your arm long, long, long. If your elbow is feeling weird, reach that arm further and further and further out. You're gonna need to start this stretch in the 30 seconds to 1 minute range for most people, because this is a very intense stretch for the majority of the population. In the future, there is also a double version of this, which is a lot harder for people to get into and out of, and we'll talk about that in a future video. Work on isolating each elbow first before we start putting it together, before we start doing all the fancy stuff with our legs.